Hello there, and welcome back to Szpakowo. So it's May, and we're just taking a look here at our sorghum field, which looks like it is growing very nicely. So what do we have on the cards for this month? Well, before we discuss that, I found a new mod in the mod hub, which actually seems really cool. Just landed in mod hub today from what I can see, because I do check mod hub every day before I start recording. And it's called Employment, and it introduces a concept to the game where you can actually get employment at any of the industries around the map. So if we go into the map quickly, and let's find one of the industries. So over at the dairy, I had to click around and find one of the buildings that is actually supported by the mod. So if you look in the top left here, employment is Shift Y. So if we do Shift Y on the keyboard, we can see that the dairy is offering employment, and we can start out as a cleaner, and we have to work a certain amount of hours every month. So we can hit space to apply, and we'll be employed, and we have to put in 10 hours every month and gain experience. We can also work part-time just to earn ourselves a little bit of extra money on the side with no strings attached. That's what the description says. I'm not quite sure what that means, but if we work full time as a cleaner, so 10 hours per month or per day as it is in the game, because we've only got 1 day per month, we eventually gain experience. And then there's also the concept of studying at home to increase your skill. And once you've studied enough and you have a relevant amount of experience, you can take an exam and be eligible for a promotion. I don't quite know how it works. I had a little play with it in a test world, but I haven't really played with it too much. So I'm going to leave it enabled in the game, and in those months where we don't have much to do, maybe we'll come and find a job at the dairy or somewhere else and start a secondary career. Anyways, back to our farm, because I think we probably have some things to take care of this month. Let's take a look in the map and see what we need to do. First thing I want to check is the growth. Okay, so we're looking good here, and we're looking good over here. Let's see if we have any weeds. So no weeds in either of our fields. We've got a few weeds in here. I think these are probably large weeds, though. They don't look like small weeds. Let's go take a look over here at this field. Yeah, it's saying the weeds need a hoe, but there's not that many in the field if we look. There's only a few, so I'm okay with those being there. Not really going to bother with those. Our rice field doesn't have any weeds, which is great. Just want to check that we have our rice turned on. We do. So yeah, no weeding to do, which is fantastic. So the first thing we're going to do in that case then is water our rice fields. So we'll go over to the rice field here. We can see it started growing. Where's the tap to flood it? We'll run over here quickly, and we will start the flooding. And then what I think we'll do is start picking up those bales. So let's start flooding the field. That will switch itself off when it's ready. And in the meantime, let's grab our tractor and let's get some bale wrapping done. So we'll jump in the tractor. And we don't want to be hooked up to that. We can unhook. Let's pick up the bale wrapper and do some wrapping. So yeah, the employment will be especially useful for January, February, maybe even November, December, depending on what's going on, especially while our farm is fairly small. We can go find a job and work our way up in the job. It'll be an interesting way to pass the time. Okay, so I'm going to continue with the bale wrapping. We've got 37 bales to do, so a considerable number, and I will come back to you once we have made a little bit of progress and we're ready to pick up the bales off the field. So we are just collecting up the last bale of these 37, and that was actually not a bad task. I figured out that if I use the time the bale wrapper took to wrap the bales to line the bales up, it will make them easier to collect when we go round with the front loader and bale spike. So instead of just being all over the field, they are now grouped into 5 separate groups, and it's going to make loading them up a lot easier. So I was thinking that I would really like to get a bale storage sooner rather than later. Add it to the list, I know, alongside the silo and the grain mill and everything else that we want to build up our farm. But having one of those automated bale storages where you can just drive over them with the trailer, and they all go into the storage automatically, and then you just choose how many you want to unload at a time when you want to get them out. That would be absolutely perfect. So we'll add it to the list, and it can be one of the many things that we need to start building up our operation. So what's next? Well, I think the field over here is probably finished flooding. Yeah, our rice field is successfully flooded. So I think now what we'll do is pick up the bales, and now is it worth picking them up and putting them on the trailer? Because we're going to have at least 1, maybe 2 more cuts of grass before we sell them. I'm going to try and hold out until the end of the year, or at least until we get a better price for selling. So what we'll do, I think, is we'll load up this first batch onto the trailer, because I don't foresee us needing the trailer for anything else. So we'll load the first batch on the trailer, and then the other batches we'll just have to put to the side of the field somewhere once we've wrapped them, once we've cut the grass again. So that's what I think is the best plan for now. So we'll hook up to our trailer, and we'll quickly dash around the field, get these bales picked up. Before we do that though, let's take a quick look at any contracts that might be available for this month. We have some bale wrapping, some deadwood, we have a couple of fertilizing contracts, we have a reasonably sized mowing contract there. We could take care of that over on field 37, and that's about it. Yeah, we have nothing else really to do. There's a weeding contract here, but I don't want to get involved in that giant field for weeding, even if it is 5,000. So what we'll do is pick up the bales, and then we'll take another look at contracts, but maybe we'll take a look at that employment add-on that I've downloaded as a way to keep us busy for the rest of May once we picked up these bales. We will see. We might even skip through to June. I don't think we've got anything that's going to be harvestable in June. When are our crops harvestable actually? Let's check the rice and the sorghum. So if we go down to sorghum, that's ready in August, and our rice is, what's our long grain rice? Is September. Okay, so we're going to have a few months to fill up time with. So maybe we could do the employment thing, maybe we could do some contracts, we will see. Even though the employment probably doesn't pay as well as the contracts to start out with, it would still be fun to do it and see how the mechanic works, because I believe if you do continue to build up your skills and take the exams, then it can end up being pretty lucrative. It actually reminds me a little bit of the employment and the job structure. Actually reminds me a little bit of The Sims. I don't know if you remember, if you've played that, if you remember the employment structure from it. When you start out, you work more hours for less money, and then as you get more senior, you work less hours or less days, as it is in that game, for more money. That's how it looks like it works in Farming Simulator. So it might be worth starting to work our way up in a job, even if we get paid less at first, because once we've studied and gained some qualifications, we might even end up making more than we would from doing contracts. We will see. Anyways, I'll get this done and I'll come back to you once we are finished. as you can see, the bales are doing what bales usually do and just causing all kinds of mischief and jumping off the trailer and just doing whatever they please without any consideration for the person who's working hard to try and get them to go on the trailer. So it's turning into a frustrating experience. I think what I should start doing is what I was doing towards the end of the time lapse there, and that's tipping the bales onto their end before I start stacking them on the trailer, and that way once they're stacked they won't roll off of each other like they have been. So I will test that out the next time I have an empty trailer to stack, and if the results of that don't prove fruitful, I will probably just get the auto load enabled for the trailer. See, look, I don't understand, they're just kind of shaking around when I'm not doing anything. Let's do this and secure them like that, then they won't jump off. But yeah, it's I think this is one of the I don't know if it's a bug with the game. It's something to do with the way the physics work and the way full trailers behave, because technically I'm overloading the trailer, but really it's just a bunch of bales, so they shouldn't start quivering and shaking like they are. But that's essentially what is knocking them off. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna strap them down manually for a minute just while I load a few more on, and then once we're full, then I will just leave this trailer. I'll leave this trailer at the side while the bales ferment, and we will figure out a different approach for the next time we need to load the trailer. See, that one should have stayed where it was. Okay, I think I'm done loading the trailer. Let's get hooked up to it. We'll unzap the straps and strap them down again just to make sure they're all secure in place. There we go. And I will collect the other 6 some other way. My determination is winning here. I really want to get all of these loaded up onto the trailer in one load, and I know that if I had tipped them on the end at the start, this would definitely be possible. So yeah, the next time I load it, I'm definitely going to try that, because we can probably stack them 3 high by what, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 long, so that will be 21. That will be 42 we can fit on there if my calculations are correct. I don't know how we would then get it over to the store without it completely collapsing under the weight of the bales, but that would be another problem for another day. Let's get this last one on there, and then we'll leave the other 5 that are in the, and then we'll take the other 5 and we will just stack them at the side of the field. There we go. I will turn them up on their end like that, because then they're ready to be loaded onto the trailer. Yeah, I think this is probably going to be a better way to do it. I know the more expensive bale wrappers have the option to add an end turner to the wrapper, which automatically turns them onto their end. But as we went with the cheapest bale wrapper, we don't have that. But that's okay. I kind of like our bale wrapper for the fact that we can, while it's doing its wrapping of each bale, we can kind of create groups of bales in the same area of the field without wasting any time. It really makes it handy for not moving the trailer around too much when we're collecting the bales. Anyways, we are almost done with this. This is the last bale. So yeah, I think after this what we're going to do is let's take a look at this new employment mod and see if we can actually go find a job somewhere. Be a fun little adventure for this rainy May afternoon. Okay, so we're going with the gas station. So I'm going to apply for a job here, and let's see how this works. So we apply for the job. I want to apply for the cleaner job, and then once we've applied for it, we can choose to work. So we don't have anything left to do for the month of May. So let's work until, say, 11 o'clock tonight. So it looks like you're sleeping, and then time advances to 11 o'clock, and we have worked 10 hours. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm just testing this out, so bear with me while I do some testing. We're going to go to our little container, because when I read the very limited instructions, it said you can study at home. So yeah, if I do this, Control Y, Shift Y, yeah, I'm not quite sure how to study. Anyways, let's skip through to June. We can take care of our fields, and then we will see what we can do. So if I do that again, yeah, so there's nothing I can do at home for now. I'm not quite sure how you are supposed to study. I don't see anything there, I just see the employment option. I don't know. Anyways, let's go over to our farmland here. Our rice is growing again. Let's get the field flooded, and that can be taken care of for the month. So we'll flood this. There we go, we're flooding again. And then let's see what else we have to do this month. So if we look at our growth, our grass is ready to grow, which is fantastic. It's saying it's 3 or 4 though, so maybe we should leave it for another month. In fact, it looks like we could do with some lime and some nitrogen. Is that right? Let's take a look at our precision farming. Yeah, so nitrogen is bad, lime is bad. So okay, we'll do some fertilizing and some liming on our field, and then we'll probably mow it next month once it's at its final growth stage, to make sure we get a full yield out of it. And then maybe we'll just head over to the gas station, work for the rest of June, and just carry on with that employment experiment to see how it goes. I'm not convinced by it just yet. We will see. So we can leave the front loader attached. We'll hook up to our spreader here. And what do we have in the spreader? We have lime in the spreader. So let's make sure we're on the best working width. We have it on auto. Let's set the steering assist. I'll do the liming and the fertilizing, and I will join you once it is complete. Okay, so that is our field limed and fertilized. Not quite sure what's going on with the lime in this field. It seems to be not detecting certain areas of the field, and the areas that it's not detecting, it just seems to be spraying maximum lime everywhere. So I don't know, maybe it's something to do with this spreader because it's a mod. I'm really not sure. Anyways, let's take another look at our field and see if there's anything else needs doing. For this field here, I think I'm going to just clear the yield map, just so that when we harvest it the next time, we're getting a clear yield map of what's actually being harvested. That will be helpful. And then, yeah, I think that should see us good. Do I need to take a look at anything else? I think we're good for our own fields. So let's go over to, I think, over to the gas station. We'll take a look at contracts, because that is obviously going to be more lucrative than working the employment job, especially because I don't know how it works. So we have this big field here which we could mow for 10,000 euros. Now this might be worth doing because we limed this field before and it wasn't too bad to lime. It is a fairly big field, it's 9 acres, but I think I might take the mowing contract here and see how it goes, just to see how well our mower handles big contracts. So yeah, let's have an adventure. We'll take this mowing contract. I don't think it's going to take too long because the mowing speed's fairly quick at 22, and 8.3 meter working width, so while the field is fairly big, we do have quite a wide working width. We will ultimately see when we get there, and if it doesn't go well, if it takes too long or seems monotonous, then we just won't do it again. Plus, it's only 7 AM on this June morning. We have the whole day to really kind of fill up. We have plenty of options with between contracts, employment, and just skipping the month really. Our own fields are ready to harvest, so we'll be mowing our grass in July, and then in August we'll be harvesting our sorghum, and in September we'll be harvesting our rice. I really do think we're going to get a very large haul of money this year because we've got plenty of crops coming in. We're going to have 3 loads of mowing that we can take care of. Yeah, we're going to have 3 loads of silage to sell. It's going to be over 100 bales, and when you think it's around 800 euros a bale, I think at its premium price, that's going to be 80,000 euros. So we're also going to have 3 fields of crop to handle. Now with the 80,000 or so, I think what I would like to do is get the grain mill, and what was the other thing I wanted? I know I wanted the bale storage, but the grain mill is going to be able to turn us over money, so that's going to be my priority. Grain mill and a silo. And I'm thinking, should I sell that field that we have sorghum in, or should I just turn it back into a field and keep it for a while for crops until we buy another field that's a little closer? So this is a 2.84 acre field. Next one that would be similar, I guess, would be this one at 3.29 acres. Or of course we have this one here, 3.7 acres. So that one is then, if we go over to our farmland, this 104 is this area here. So that could be our next purchase. It's 181,000 though. It's got plenty of trees in it. We could chop them down and make use of them somehow. We could purchase this field here. Although I know this has a lot of farm buildings on it, so if they were sellable, then I would definitely consider that. That could be an option. So 3.81 acres at 92,000. Yeah, that could be a good option, is to buy this field here, because this is where we wanted to set up our little retail area eventually. I would have to probably load into a test world and see if the farm buildings are removable, because I don't really want them there if we're going to buy the field. So yeah, I think that might be our next purchase. Ultimately, I would like to buy these fields along here, and when I do buy them, I'm going to end up buying the thresher so that we can thresh the crops that we put in them and get a very nice yield bonus. Anyways, enough waffling about our future dreams. Let's fire up our tractor again, get our mower unfolded, and let's get this field mowed for our friendly neighbour. I will continue with it, and I will come back to you once we're done. Okay, so we are almost done mowing this grass field, and hasn't been too bad for 10,000 euros. Certainly something I would do again. Obviously it's not as lucrative as the liming and fertilizing contracts because we're able to cheese them with as little product as possible. But outside of that, this hasn't been that bad. It didn't take us too long and we got a fairly decent income from it. So let's head back over to the road and take a look at what we're going to do next. And let's take a look at our contract. So we'll collect that contract. Nice 10,000 euros there. And what else do we have to do? It's only a small liming contract. That is quite close to our field. We could do that, but I don't really want to. I think what we'll do is we'll get back to our farm and we will go to the gas station. We'll work our gas station job for the rest of June. We'll go up to 11 PM, 13.5 hour gas station shift. Now, eventually we will figure out how the promotion and the payments work. Okay, that's our gas station shift done. Let's head back to our container and let's skip through to July. So it's July and we earned 1,000 euros from our employment last month, so that's not too bad. We did a 13-hour shift and we earned 1,000 euros. That's okay. I mean, we weren't doing anything else for the day. We were just going to be passing the time, so we made 1,000 euros for essentially nothing, which was pretty cool. So let's go over to our tractor. We check the condition of the ground. Yep, this is all ready to mow. Before we do that, we'll just jump over here and we'll flood our rice field. So we'll let that be flooding, and I believe this is the last month we need to flood it before September. So with that done, the only thing left to do is to mow our field again. So let's get on with that and I will come back to you once we complete. Okay, so that is the field mowed and windrowed, and as you probably saw, I decided to kind of make my own windrowing route as opposed to following the field lines. I just feel like doing it like this is just slightly more efficient than going over the lines that the game suggests, and also because I mowed a little bit off of the field, so just wanted to make sure I captured all of the pieces off of the side of the field. So yeah, just kind of made my own path with the windrowing. So next up is to get this all baled up. But first of all, I want to check to see what the expected yield is in our sorghum field and our rice field. So what are we looking at? 89%, 120, 125. Got a few little patches of bad, only okay pH value. I'm guessing that's because we need the pulse width modulation sprayer to do the liming and fertilizing. Maybe that's something we should aim for when we get our big silage haul later on this year. We'll aim for a grain mill and a sprayer. Let's jump into the store, take a look how much sprayers are. So in here we're looking at, probably could use one of these, I'm guessing. So 21 meters as opposed to the 27 that our current spreader is. Or we have this one here, although it says 4,000, but to get the pulse width modulation it's going to be a lot more expensive, isn't it? This is 24 meters, and then we could get the tank to go with it, and the next one up is 52,000. But if we go into this, we will probably want the weed seeker and also the pulse width modulation. Although for now we could get it without the weed seeker, because we can always add that on later for the weed spot spraying. We could get this, yeah, we would aim for this initially, and then we would be able to spray the field accurately with fertilizer at the very least, and then yeah, we would worry about the weeding at a later time. The weeds aren't really an issue in our fields right now anyway, so yeah, that could be the option. Alternatively, we could go with this. We could actually afford to buy this fairly soon, so 12,600, it'd be 16,600 if we wanted to go with something with slightly less working width. So yeah, we do have options here. Okay, so that is the rice field. Let's take a quick look at the sorghum field and just see how our expected yield is looking over here. Where are we expecting? 100%, 199, 100, 81 at peak in places. Okay. So somewhere between 80 and 100, so around 90%. That's good. All right, jumping back in our tractor. Let's fire it up, get the baler started, and let's get the baling done. Pick up another round bale net. All right, so we'll get this baling done, and I will rejoin you once we are complete. See you soon. Okay, so we are almost done baling up this grass, and I did remember to reset the bale counter before we started. Now, I feel like we have a lot of bales here. I'm not sure how many we've got. We got 37 out of the last cut, and this time I made sure I went around the edges of the field just to get that little bit extra in, to ensure that we get as much as possible for our big winter haul, where I'm hoping to make around 80,000, maybe even more, hopefully around 100,000 euros, so that we can really expand our farm and start making some decent money. So that's it. Let's see what the total count was. So 38 this time, only one extra over last time, so that must be where we went off the sides of the designated field and cut the meadow kind of close to the trees, and on the path on the other side of the field. So we are beeping because our tractor needs some fuel, so let's dump the baler over here. We'll go get some fuel, and then we will wrap the bales and think about where we're going to put them until we empty our trailer. I think we'll probably just end up stacking them somewhere close to where the trailer currently is, because that's kind of near, well actually we don't know where the sell point's going to be when sale time comes around, but I think we'll probably stack them over there just to keep them relatively tidy. We'll pick up the wrapper, top it up with barrel wrap, and then we'll head over to the store and we'll start wrapping on the way back. Now I'm really wondering if these buildings to the left here are not sellable but just removable. I don't want to sell them and make loads of money if we buy the field. In fact, if that does happen, I will probably manually reset our balance to what it was when we purchased the field, because I don't want to just get a massive load of income from selling buildings on the land. I don't think that's what we're aiming to do in this playthrough. We're trying to build up from scratch since we started EP1 in Zielonka with just the 100,000 euro loan. So yeah, any land that we do buy that has buildings on it, I will be removing them, and any money that is made from removing those buildings will be removed from our bank account. So we topped up with fuel, 620 euros. Fuel is expensive for our tractor. We only filled it up. We filled it up at the beginning of June, didn't we, before we did the mowing, so we've used a full tank of diesel in just 1 month. But that's okay. We're making some decent money at the moment, and we are going to continue to make decent money. Let's get this wrapper unfolded and lowered, and let's start the wrapping. So once again, I'll continue with this, and I will come back to you once we have made some progress. See you soon. Okay, so we're getting there with our second batch of bale wrapping for the year. We do have to go through this one more time this year, but I believe it will be worth it, because once we get that third haul done, we will have some decent money to do some expansion things with our farm. So just wrapping this bale, dropping it off over here. I also think it's better to bring them over here, even though it's a little bit repetitive. Just bringing them all to one place, it's going to make it so much easier when it comes to loading them onto the trailer. So I believe it's worth going through the monotony now rather than dealing with it later. Also, we need to get them off the field anyway, so we need to move them somewhere. We may as well move them all to 1 or 2 spots for ease of loading later. So once we've emptied the trailer, I do plan on turning all of these bales onto their end along with the next batch. We'll see how that facilitates loading them onto the trailer once it's empty. I don't think we'll get to turn them on their end next month, because next month is sorghum harvest time. Although having said that, there's not really much else to do alongside harvesting the sorghum, so maybe we will get to turn them on their end next month. So we are going to spend the rest of the month working our second job over at the gas station. So I will head over there and start my shift. But I do think this is a great place to leave this episode. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're enjoying following along. If you are, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I will hopefully see you in the next episode. Until then, bye for now.